me be the I guess the devil's advocate for a second, because I know people are going to be asking
Yes,
this
of
in the
course.
comment section, right?
Yeah.
What if someone says Japan is safe because of these things? Like, what if someone says, well, they stop Japanese people as well? What if someone says that to you, or say, well, maybe it's just the way you look, you know, cut your hair, right? What would you say to those people?
At the time, I thought he just stopped me because I was black. I thought that's the reason why he stopped me. That's why, because if you look at some of the Twitter, people are saying, like, why is he smiling? Why is he this so-and-so? Like, why is he smirking? But my intention was the fact that I thought he was stopping me because I was black. So when he says dreads, I thought that's an excuse for not to mention the fact that he stopped me. I was black. That's the reason why I was smirking. So I was like, really? Because of my hair.
So today, Akasan and Alonzo will be sharing their stories of being stopped by the police in Japan. Being black in Japan, we have a myriad of experiences. You guys know I've been stopped twice. I'm pretty sure these two gentlemen have been stopped multiple times as well in Japan. So Akasan, introduce yourself, let them know who you are.
What's up, everybody? It's Akasan. It's your boy here. And as Alonzo was saying, thank you. I appreciate that, Alonzo. He's my groupie today.
Yes, I am.
I'm just kidding.
I am not ashamed.
So, as Ranzo was saying, I've been living here in Japan for about 10 years. I've originally from Los Angeles, and I have been stopped by the police maybe 3 to 4 times a year. And while that actually seems somewhat high, it probably is. I'm kind of used to it because of my experiences growing up in Los Angeles. So I think my experiences, as I have found out within the last week, have been very different in sort of being inordained to this situation, desensitized. But it's also a great opportunity to bring awareness, not necessarily complain, but bring awareness to a possibility of discrimination and racial profiling, or is it just stereotypical profiling? That's what I'm trying to find out right now.
All right, so Alonzo, can you tell them who you are?
Hi everybody, my name is Alonzo, or most people call me Zoe, if that's easier to differentiate for all of us, but yeah, so I am actually born and raised in Japan. My mother's Japanese, and my father is actually from the Bahamas, and so most people think I'm American, but I'm not. And yeah, I'm unlike Akasan and many other, even Ronzo too. I actually only been stopped by the police like in total maybe 4 in total all my years living here. And like, well, I'm also the fact that since I speak their language, I kind of know my ways to how to avoid them and like the routes of like I'm more aware of the situation. Like in Japan, I'm more like informed about it. So I know ways to maneuver it, but yeah, these past within this 6 months, I got stopped 3 times. 2 of those I recorded the encounter, and one of them is the footage that everyone's been seeing lately. So yeah, hopefully today, today's main focus for me is to kind of like, I guess, kind of tell everybody like the detail, like exactly what happened, and like, and I also wanted to inform people the fact that I'm already gonna say it, but Japanese police officers are still well reliable. I want to get that out there personally, I think, compared to like any other police encounters I've encountered overseas, inshores, in Japan or overseas. And so I just wanted to make that. This is not a hate speech coming from me. I'm not saying like, oh, Japanese police is this. I'm actually trying to tell what's happened and what can be done better. That's the main focus for me.
Okay, so Akasan, like, tell me, like, what's your experience like with the police? Like, can you walk us through it? Like,
Which one?
what's the general sense? Or
I mean, but I also think I'm joking, but at the same time, people ask me that. But for me, again, coming from Los Angeles, I grew up my entire life afraid of the black and white cars. I would get nervous every time cop cars would pull up. Even I didn't even do anything wrong, but it's just so indoctrinated into me that I might be suspected of something that I get nervous having my hands on the wheels. And I always make sure I would have my hands on the wheel on the 12 and the 3, or on the 9 and the 3 all the time, just making sure. It would be like that. I would, to this point, even zebras scare me just a little bit. So, you'll have to be a little more specific.
But recently, so you said within the last, 3 months, you were stopped?
In about the last 3 to 4 months, I've been stopped a few times in Shibuya.
Okay.
In most of the time, I always, I guess, subconsciously would make some sort of excuse for the police, I guess, in some ways. Speaking with, the last couple of weeks, talking to other people and speaking with different reporters, sometimes maybe I'm not that, maybe that was where I was in the wrong, sometimes giving excuses. One of the most interesting times was I just happened to leave the premiere of Avengers Endgame. I was leaving, it was a midnight showing, so it was already 3 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning. I had my backpack on, and I was cosplaying as Ronin, or Hawkeye, from Endgame. So I also had a katana sticking out of my backpack. Police come up. They start panicking. And I'm like, okay. I see how this looks. It looks kind of bad. Black man in the middle of Roppongi walking around with a katana as a backpack. And they're like, Nani, what are you doing? And I was just like, Boku wa Avenger desu. Avenger, revenge. And I'm like, no, Avenger, chotto matte. I'm an Avenger. So... and I thought, okay, maybe it was my fault. I'm walking around with a katana. Then the second time, more recently, was I was walking around Shibuya going to Tower Records for something. Again, I was wearing, this time, a fan sent me a Hawkeye/Ronin in-game sort of ninja-looking jacket. And I had my black mask on, too. And at that time, I was doing something with my hair, so I had a do-rag on. So I had a black do-rag on and everything. And this time this one annoyed me a little bit more because this was, I saw it coming. There was no way I could avoid this one. I get out of Shibuya, over by Hachiko. I see the police right before the infamous Shibuya crossing. And they're just, you see how they're kind of patrolling, they're scanning. Right, they're looking for someone, anyone, somebody. I'm like, please not me, please. But I'm like, I don't want to have to go around because I'm afraid of the police. No, I'm going to just do this. I start crossing the street with my little ninja outfit, right? I start crossing the street. Next thing I know,
it was this moment.
Damn, yeah.
It was this moment. It was this moment.
Yeah. And I was like, So they start talking to me, start opening my backpack up, doing the body check. And I told them, I'm like, really? You really want to search me? All right. Let's go over here, at least in the least inconspicuous part of Shibuya. Because the last thing is probably, I think, out of all of this, and I think Zoe can confirm this, I think the biggest thing about this is, compared to America, which we shouldn't always compare, but compared to the situations in getting stopped in America, you can get stopped in Japan and it feels embarrassing. But... yeah. You can get stopped in America and you can lose your life. I think that's the big difference. I've never been afraid for my life in Japan being stopped. I've had guns pulled on me in Los Angeles by police because I was going for my license and registration too fast, so they got trigger happy. I've had to literally have my hands up and tell them not to shoot. But in Japan, it's just embarrassing. However, as I was speaking with other brothers about this, that shouldn't be the grading scale for how well Japan is performing when it comes to pulling people over. Well, at least we didn't shoot you. That shouldn't be the ranking of how things should be in terms of police discrimination and profiling.
100%.
So, but with this particular case, I was getting body searched. And they couldn't find anything. I answered all the questions. They asked me if I have marijuana on me. I told them I don't need it. I don't smoke. Do you have marijuana on you? Because I don't need any.
Right.
The female cop was looking through my wallet. She makes this sound. And the guy's like, oh, we found something. Hold on. Chotto mate. Just wait. Just a moment. And he looks and he sees 2 IC cards in my wallet. One is my girlfriend.
Oh,
And this particular IC card, which is a transportation pass, it has my girlfriend's name on it. And I'm like, uh-oh, I know what they're trying to do.
Right.
And they start asking me, okay, there's a woman's card in here. Who is it? And I'm like, it's my girlfriend's. And they're like, what's her name? Okay, I'd say the name. But I also said, because recently she just legally changed her last name. And I'm like, okay, it could be one of two things. And they're like, okay, can you call her? I'm like, really?
Wow. Did you actually call her?
I took out my phone, but then I forgot there were a bunch of nudes on there. I'm like, oh. And obviously my girlfriend's name is not, for play on reasons. There's a bunch of different code names in there. So I was just like, okay, you're just going to have to trust me. This is her. And we tried calling her. She didn't pick up. And then I think they realized they just couldn't find anything to pin on me. And then they let me go. But it's this moment in time that I think feels the worst, because when you're left and when you're leaving, you feel less than a human. That's the thing. And I've been hearing a lot of comments since a lot of this has been happening, since my most recent stop and frisk went viral, is that if you don't like it, go back to your country. It's not a big deal. It happens to people all the time. But here's the thing is, it doesn't happen as much as it seems. It doesn't seem to happen as much to certain other people. If I started seeing women and children and regular salarymen getting pulled over and frisked, maybe I would pull back on this. But the fact that it happens so frequently,
it feels targeted.
You feel targeted, but more importantly, you have all these regular people looking at you. How does that look? Almost every time this has happened, it's happened around my job. Where my customers are at, where the people I work with are at. How does that look to the rest of the world if you're always getting pulled over and profiled? Even though you've done nothing wrong, you might as well have in the eyes of the people around you. And I think that's one of the biggest problems about this, is that this stereotype, being profiled creates a profile for you that you've done something wrong, that you've done something bad. It's already hard enough for me to compete with basic standard white teachers in the same sort of level of English teaching, just because I have dreadlocks or just because I'm black. It's already hard enough for me to compete with that sort of standardized ideal English teacher, but to have these sort of things going viral, or to have these sort of things happen right outside of your work, that's what hurts the most.
You know what? I want to touch on the dreadlocks thing, but I want to ask you a question first.
Sure.
What's the goal? What's the mission? Right? Because some people are gonna say, okay, so what do you guys want? Right? You're not being killed. So what's your expectation? So what would you say your expectation is in terms of police interaction in Japan?
I'd say the real question is just why. Like, before touching a little bit into Zoe's own experience, where the police essentially admitted that in their experience, people with dreadlocks equals marijuana. And in some sense, I get that stereotype. I've been here long enough to know that, goddamn, a good amount of people with dreadlocks actually have some marijuana on them. But my question is, how many people with dreadlocks have you run into that you can make this profile and it equals marijuana, so to speak?
I only know, including Akasan, like maybe 4, honestly, that are my friends. And all those people, other occasions, turns out to be Japanese people who's actually wearing dreadlocks.
Actually, speaking of that, that's actually very true.
So what about your experience, Alonzo? Tell me about the most recent encounter that went viral, right? It was recorded. Right? So you have evidence. And they reference your hair, right?
Right.
So just walk us through that encounter.
Okay.
それはなんでかな、じゃあ、どうしてなの？
じゃあ、あと、本当申し訳ない。
いやいや
言っていい？言っていい？私があと思ったのは経験上ですよ。私の経験則として、俺ら別にトレッドヘアが悪いわけではない。悪いわけではないですけど、そういうトレッドヘア、おしゃれな方。で、結構薬物を持ってる方が私の経験上、今まで多かった。そういうことです。で、プラス、先ほどの、あれ、はい。
じゃあ、それは久しぶりにドレッド見たから止めたわけではないんだね。
だから先ほど言った。
ぶっちゃけ本当にみじんもないのね。
そう、それで私のことを気になってると思ったのと、先ほど言った、そういった。
経験上イコール
経験上
髪型似てるだけで、なんか。
似てるとかじゃなくて。
要は、 大体こういうやつって持ってるって言いたいんでしょ。
もっと可能性がある。俺悪くないんですよ。悪くはないんだよ。
いや
やってることが悪くじゃなくて、
いや
私の経験則で、一部の方で、そういったものを持ってる方がいた。
だから要は、こいつこんな髪してるからどうせ持ってんだろうなって
どう
思ったでしょ。
せ持ってるかどうかは分からない。私は植物もしてないから。ただ持ってる可能性があるってこと。
いや、普通にだから思ったよ。
こちら失礼します。すいませんでした。
It happened January 27th. It was a Wednesday, and I just got off work, and that day, so this whole Rona situation with everybody kind of worried about their jobs and everything, and I recently just moved out, and I was about to get my own apartment too, and I wasn't sure, it's my first time living alone too, and all this pressure, and I had other projects on the side, so basically my head wasn't on straight that day. I really was in the mood to interact with nobody. You know, everybody has those days, right? So I was transferring stations. Turns out, so I got off at Tokyo Station, about to get into another line on the JR line, and I was on my phone, just nonchalant, just chilling, and then I caught two kind of figure, a glimpse, I guess, just the corner of my eye, and I felt I think it's also the fact that just being black also kind of gives everybody all an automatic spidey sense, just in case when somebody's looking at you. I don't know why. I felt already automatically somebody's looking at me, and but I only saw a figure, right? And I don't know if you saw the video, but at the time and even now, I guess depending on which area of Tokyo or certain places you're in, the police uniform is a bit different. And their uniform was a bit brighter than the uniform I'm used to, instead of in front of the Shibuya station or the one in Yokohama. I honestly thought they were just a staff or people who works in the station, the Tokyo station specifically, and or just worst case just giving out tissues. Sumimasen, would you like this or whatever? So when they came by, I kind of was spooked because it basically came out of nowhere. I thought he's farther away, but he just came up to me, Sumimasen, and I'm like,
that's always how it happens. Yeah.
And then from there, I already fell in for the trap, because at that moment, the moment I reacted, I'm like, oh yes, I was trying to keep it moving.
Probable cause.
Because no, seriously,
he jumped.
He jumped.
There's something wrong with you.
You're breathing very, very rushed. You're breathing.
You got scared like a normal person. Probable cause.
Exactly. So at that point, I was already stuck, and I tried to keep it moving. Some of my other friends who actually some of my friends are actually taller, really tall. Some of them are 2 meters, right? And he has dreadlocks, and he rarely gets stopped by the Japanese police, because I feel 2 versus 1. Yeah, he's taller than even both of us combined. Yeah, we're gonna because I realized he only got stopped maybe once or twice, maybe more that I'm just not aware of, but. He says he rarely gets stopped in Tokyo. He just keeps it walking. They try to talk to him, but he just keeps walking. I try to pull that off, so I'm like, oh no, see my son, but they're like, nah, you ain't going fast. It's let me talk to you real quick. So they stop me, and I'm like, what am I? The first thing I ask, what am I even being stopped for? And again, of course, his first answer was, well, you flinched, you're being, and I saw you kind of being cautious of us or whatever. We had eye contact. And I'm like, yeah. We're in the most busiest part of Tokyo Station, in the most rush hour, because everybody's going home. It's 5 p.m. or 5:30. That's when everybody close to go home, right? So I'm trying, and it's Rona, and I've just seen in the video he didn't really have his mask right, and my head wasn't straight. I was not in the mood to talk to anybody anyway. So yeah, and so I tried to explain all the reasons why I reacted the way I did, logically, in the most calmest manner, and we're both speaking Japanese this time, by the way. So he already knows, at that point, the fact that I'm speaking Japanese better than the average person, or because I already knew they thought I was foreigner.
Right.
Because oh, sumimasen, ID, either so I'm yeah, kekko desu. Yeah, 普通に帰りたいんで. And でもちょっといいですか? ちょっと質問だけお願いします. And I feel the worst this is something me and Baye, the interview from Japan Post talked about, is the worst kind of racism is the nice, the racism you don't see. Right. It's whatever, my apologies, because no matter at that point, no matter how you react, you're gonna look the bad guy no matter what. The person with the most aggression at that point, I feel like, because if you look at it, normal Japanese people's views, I bet at that point I look like there goes another foreigner again.
Right.
Like he probably did. It's never the other way around. So I already knew that. So with all this in mind, I really wanted to be out of that situation. And as we kept talking, eventually it got to the point where I literally asked him. So I recently get stopped a lot. Like this is my third time. Like, and I asked him like, why do you think this happens to me a lot? Like I literally asked him, why do you think this happens to me a lot? And he said, oh, well, to be frankly, and that's where the comment you both saw in the video where he said, through my experience, people with dreadlocks tend to or either have a chance of having drugs on them. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. And so, but at the time, I thought he just stopped me because I was black. I thought that's the reason why he stopped me. That's why, because if you look at some of the Twitter, people are saying, like, why is he smiling? Why is he this so-and-so? Like, why is he smirking? But my intention was the fact that I thought he was stopping me because I was black. So when he says dreads, I thought that's an excuse for not to mention the fact that he stopped me. I was black. That's the reason why I was smirking. So I was like, really? Because of my hair. Yeah, I mean, that's still, excuse my language, but like still, really, just my hair. And also the fact that, like, you know, it was two officers. And the person who was talking to me with the messed up mask, the main person on the camera, his partner is on the side. And this whole time, I guess he's his superior. I don't know. His jacket was a bit different. And he was kind of like nonchalant looking around and not really giving a and this whole time they're kind of, as we're talking, yeah, I get it. Can we kind of go to the side just real quick? Like, we don't want to bother. Like, no. Why should I make you comfortable when you're already making me uncomfortable? I already know. I told him this all in Japanese too. Like, Nande, why do I got to go to the side? Like, you're already making me uncomfortable in front of these people. And I explained to him that these people think I'm a foreigner, so. Wakarimasu. Honto sore wa gomennasai. Honto gomennasai. I'm so sorry. Like, I don't want your apology. You can let me go. Because other than the fact that you're stopping me because I reacted it in some weird way, supposedly, even though it was a natural reaction, like, yeah, I told him, like, Nande, hokani diyu wa? Is there any other reason? Give me evidence. And they say, oh, no, well, honto sore wa all I can do is apologize. He keeps repeating that. So prove that, like, all right, so you're basically telling me, like, you stopped me because you saw my dreads. That's what you're saying. And I'm not saying you have drugs on you because you have dreads, but you have a chance. Like, he keep using the word chance. And I realized the more and more I talked to him, I keep asking him, his excuse gets getting worse and worse and worse and worse. So, like, at this point, I was like, I could have just left, I guess, maybe. I didn't want to take no chances.
You were there for 30 minutes, right?
30 minutes. And at one point, they eventually said, like, you know what? Like, in Japanese, like, Oni-san ga sonna mo yun dattara mo yamemasu. Which basically is kind of saying, like, if you're going to talk this much, then yeah, fine, we won't search you. Like, but their attitude at that time kind of ticked me off. Right. So I'm like, you know what? Nah. You wasted my time for 20 minutes. You know what? Go ahead. Search me. I gave him my bag. I took off my jacket. Search me. Go ahead. Like, because I didn't want to let them off that easily, too, at the time. I don't know what came over me. Like, I guess from the stress or whatever. Right. Like, something was different for me with this encounter specifically. I don't know exactly what yet as of now, but he pissed me off. So I told him, search me. And I told him, if this proves that your experience is BS, like, it's nonsense, and it kind of, like, actually raise your awareness, and, like, you can actually gain some knowledge from this experience, that what your experience or whatever your excuse is isn't true, then go ahead, search me. And of course, they didn't found anything. But the moment I even offered them my bag and jacket, they were kind of, they was happy. Like, they were smiling.
This is true.
Oh, Inuska. Like, and I'm like,
this is true.
Yeah, you're acting kind of weird, but yeah, go ahead. So yeah, they searched my bag, my jacket. Christmas. Yeah, like, Merry Christmas. Wow. Like, it's crazy. And they frisked me thoroughly, obviously, this whole time again. Weird mask position and whatever. And it's just, both of their attitude was just weird at the time.
When they left, did they salute you? Like,
so
reluctantly, or did they?
So this is the part I wanted to tell everybody, was the fact that, so like, oh, he's being overreacting, whatever. And to prove that I'm not, that whole time, that one clip, I was overreacting because of his comments about the dress. But other than that, I legitimately asked, Nande? Like, calmly, Nande desu ka? Hoka ni nai jan? Like, and then I kind of, like, reacted, like, sarcastically. Yeah, for sure. Right. Like, other than that, I was pretty calm with them. And after they searched, like, see? Nani mo mitsukaru nakatta desho? Like, you didn't find anything, right? Yeah, honto sumimasen, arigatou gozaimasu. And they were about to leave, and I'm like, wait, chotto matte. So, Like, I really hope you guys learn something from this opportunity. Maybe you don't. You probably laugh it off and forget about this. But, like, blah, blah, blah. And, like, I just hope, like, I just want you to know, please stop doing this to anybody. And I told them, just because people are saying yes and it's okay for them to search them, doesn't mean they're actually okay with it. Doesn't mean they're actually comfortable with it. I told them in Japanese. Yeah, they're not actually complying. Because at the end of the day, you're an officer. People don't know whether it's a choice when you approach them asking, not telling them to. I'm not saying you should tell them to anyway, but when you come up asking them, like, sumimasen, chotto ii desu ka, and the moment that you say no, and they're like, nande, well, that conversation already alone tells me I don't have a choice. You asked me a question, I said no. You asked me why. Should there be a why? I just told you no. And other people say, oh, they should have, next time just tell them no because they need a warrant. I don't know if that's true yet.
So
I just learned that after this experience. They're like,
is it true? I'm still...
I don't know. I just found that out from another...
Reijo. I think that's the word they use. Reijo.
Yeah, they're like, you can actually say no. And I'm like, really? Like that.
Real quick comment. So afterwards I talked, I shook their hand. And I actually also apologized. Some people say I shouldn't have, but I apologized for kind of, even for that, for me reacting that way. And I just told them that they should be better, because I do look up to them way better than the American cops in the States. And I know we shouldn't compare them as much as possible, but just because, and then we parted ways. So nothing ill-willed. I mean, I still felt embarrassed and whatever. You know, the whole Japan has a 99% conviction rate because, you're guilty until proven innocent. That's the whole reason I even started recording anyway, because I didn't even want to take the chance.
Right.
And that's kind of sad, me being half Japanese, still worried about the fact that I might get arrested here in my own country and probably have the same conviction rate as any foreigner.
So what always comes to my mind when I start hearing about drug possession, that I might have drugs on me, is in the back of my mind, every single Japanese celebrity that is always caught with some sort of drugs and it's a big scandal, where did they magically suddenly get this from? A foreigner. I bought it off of a foreigner. I'm like, how many foreigners do you know, and how come this is the first time I've ever heard of this famous celebrity hanging out with foreigners? You know, only when they get caught, they blame it on the foreigners. When Corona was getting spread, blame it on the foreigners. So there's always this sort of like blame game with foreigners, and it always is this particular situation. And I think that is sort of the frustration here. It's like, okay, what can I do? I'm not going to cut my hair for you.
Yes.
I can't, at least in America or so, I feel like, I hope at one point in my life I can grow out of being profiled or something. If I have kids in a family van, what have you not, maybe not. But I can't ever grow out of being a foreigner. I can't change that about me. So that's also a question, is just, why is there such an increase recently? One running theory that I have is just the fact that because of Shibuya, it is Shibuya. Shibuya is by far the biggest metropolitan city in Tokyo, outside of Shinjuku or so, but it's definitely one of the biggest tourist areas. Currently, Japan has no tourists right now because of the Corona situation. So you have this huge improbable force of police with nothing to do right now. So in order to get them stats up, they just start, the body checking is a lot more. So adding to my personal experience, so after Zoe's situation happened on the 27th, his story started making waves on Twitter, going viral. Everybody's talking about it. It gets to my desk at some point in time. I make a comment on it. I talk about this happens a lot in Japan. It happens to me 3 or 4 times a year, but usually I look like a ninja out of Avengers. I was just joking about it. Somebody was like, I want to interview about this. I want to interview you about police discrimination. I'm like, all right, but I'm not going to be up here blasting the police, because I do feel like, they target certain people that look a certain way, but sometimes I guess I give them an excuse. I don't know. Right, almost immediately after, the next day, I am leaving my job around 3 o'clock in Shibuya, and I don't stand around anyways because of one of those reasons. If you're kind of just standing around aimlessly, that gives reasonable suspicion or whatever, right? I'm not even joking. Literally 3 minutes after I leave my job, I'm sitting next to the Family Mart, right next to my job, texting my friend, this is where I want to meet you. The police are coming down the hill, and I'm like, no. You see them smiling, kind of talking to each other. Yeah, you can kind of see the mask, like they're smiling.
You start like...
So they come up to me, and I'm just like, I'm just chilling on the bench, or no, I'm chilling on the bar, and I'm just like, here we go. And the first thing I tell them in Japanese is just like, wakarimasu. Marijuana haite nai. I don't have any marijuana on me. And they're like, oh, you already know. Yeah, I don't. They're like, no, but we just want to ask you some questions. And then
double check.
Double check. They're like, they start asking me, are you visiting Japan? I'm like, how can I be visiting Japan when the border's been closed for almost a year now to America? I'm like, but I'm just like, no, I live here. I've been living here 10 years. And they're like, okay. And then here come the questions of like, okay, can we check your bag? And I'm like, really? Look, my friend is coming real soon. Like literally 30 minutes away. They're coming real soon. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, okay, it's just a matter of like, do I sit here and keep arguing with them over something, or do I just let them do what they need to do so they get to keep on going through? It sucks that it becomes a situation like that, but you really start thinking to yourself, as I mentioned earlier, you're in front of your job, particularly you're in front of possible clients or some of your students that are walking by. There were kids walking by looking at me, and I'm just like, okay, regardless of how this situation ends, the longer it goes, the longer I look like the criminal. I look like the bad guy. So I'm just like, all right, whatever, just go for it. And they start checking the bag. And just like I said, 3 minutes later, my friend starts taking photos from the bridge, wondering what's going on.
Oh, so wow. So he saw yours.
She was there, yeah. So she saw me, and she was like, what? Started taking the photos.
Oh, wow. And that's the picture I saw.
Those are the pictures you got. So she starts running up. And she's just like, Nadia, what's going on here? And the police are like, caught like that. And she's taking the photos, recording, and they're just like, oh, Tomodachi. I'm like I said, here's my friend. Give everything back to me. They're like, oh, Simasen. And then they just walk away that.
And I asked this cop, the one that stopped me in Tokyo too, how would you feel if I came up to you and asked you all of a sudden, ID, let me see your bag? And I told him you would be uncomfortable, right? He was like, oh, no. I would have been like, hi, wakarimashita. Dozo. And I'm like, man,
I don't think
get
so.
out of here. Like, no way. Who saw this show? Seriously.
I would comply, of course.
So, like, really.
How do you feel, being like, half black, half Japanese? How do you feel when this happens to you, like, in your country?
Proves, it kind of concretes my thought, the fact that like my friend jokingly always said like, man, you're mixed and you basically don't have anywhere where you belong, and I'm like, no, I belong here in Japan, etc. And like more and more of these experiences happen. It's not even with the officers at this point. It's just I feel like sometimes this country as a whole, it really needs an update with it. They just have to know like it's 2020. It's not like back in the 20 years ago where seeing a foreigner is actually like, oh my god, look at his hair, like it's a rare Pokemon, it's a shiny. Like it's not like that. They need to really know, you have some foreigners here now that actually stays here too, so you need to update your the way you view people, and they really need an update just overall. I mean, and I actually studied in a Japanese school at one point, and the only history they're teaching their students is actually their own history. Maybe some of the war, like World War I. That's about it. But in America, at least I learned about Middle Eastern, Asian history here and there, and global history, right? But here, culturally and education-wise, everything is so, can't think of the word, but, so...
National?
National only, national instinct, in a way. So, I really think these type of videos, I wish it stays more viral and actually raise more awareness, but...
Do you feel, though, what Ronzo's kind of also asking, do you feel like an outsider after those situations?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Even till now, like he said, even just when we were linking up, I saw, white and black car, and I got nervous for no reason. And that's sad.
Right, because you were born here.
I was born here.
This is your country.
Sometimes I speak better Japanese than their local people. I'm like, because and every time I realized too, some of these encounters, including with the Tokyo one, and actually 2 days after that, I ran into this old dude. We got into an argument, and the first thing he said was, "Are you guys even here legally?" and I told him like, well, here's my numbers card. You know what this is? Oh, yeah, exactly. It's really sad that even all to all these years, and like I want to say nothing has improved, because it definitely has. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure Akasan, you live here as a foreigner the longest, and even you, and so your experience is definitely different from mine.
Yeah.
So, and like, I'm pretty sure, like, and you've been here long enough to see how Japan has evolved when it comes to these type of situations, right? And do you think Japan's have evolved a lot, or they still? I mean, obviously, you still need to improve more, but like, has there been even an ounce of an improvement?
With Shibuya being the way it is right now during this Corona situation, my biggest worry, like, again, it's annoying, but at the same time, my biggest problem is not even being stopped. It's what it does to me in my workload, my schedule afterwards. So far, these things have happened when I'm on my free time, but it takes me about 10 minutes from exiting the station to get to my school. And if I'm late for one of my classes, how do I go about explaining that? On top of that, there's a domino effect with me. If I'm late for one of my classes, I end up my next class being late, so on and so forth. So therefore, I need to start explaining that situation over and over and over again. And so that's one of the things is, especially with this increasing profile, it seems, I'm like, is there any way that I can just show some sort of, like, I don't have a military ID because I've never been in military. Is there any way I can avoid this so we can all just save time in the future? You know, can I go get my good gaijin card of the month from the police officer and then show them every time? No, I was checked last week. I'm good. Like,
What about? Let me be the I guess the devil's advocate for a second, because I know people are going to be asking.
Yes,
this
of
in the
course.
comment section, right?
Yeah.
What if someone says Japan is safe because of these things? Like, what if someone says, well, they stop Japanese people as well? What if someone says that to you, or say, well, maybe it's just the way you look, you know, cut your hair, right? What would you say to those people?
I would say if it happened to you consistently, you'd have a whole nother opinion about it. Those people that say that sort of things are generally the people that have never had that sort of segregation or discrimination put on them on a daily basis like that. Everybody wants to be suppressed so badly until they start becoming suppressed. And when you can start living through it on a daily basis or monthly or whatever, where it becomes, again, indoctrinated to you, like myself, like Zoe, like yourself, then you can tell me, change the way you are. And more importantly, nobody should ever have to feel the need to change a basic human right to express themselves.
Yeah, most definitely.
Just because other outside forces are inconveniencing them. Those same people that say the same sort of stuff are the same people start complaining about getting free healthcare. So, you know, oh, we're getting persecuted for healthcare? Okay. So, you know, those type of people that make those sort of comments have never ever firsthand have to experience it, and if they have, it's never been for that long.
I think that's the issue with being black, right? It's like it's consistent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? And it compounds. It's almost like a compound effect, and that's why it weighs you down.
And my question is, like, and that's already the case for you guys, but like, what am I supposed to do? A person who's already, like, it's in my blood. Like, the fact that the part that you're saying to get rid of is already in my blood. So what could I do? Like, you know, I'm not saying that I should anyway, but how would you feel if you're like, at this point I'm saying, like, if you're mixed and saying these things, or how would you feel if I said disregard your other culture and become whatever the culture that's kind of, I guess, better for the society that where you're living in? Like, could you easily do that? Or that's, like you said, that's basically telling me to be half a human, kind of, in a way. Like, you know, and
then, I mean, to further increase this point is like, yeah, what are you going to say to someone like Zoe, who this is his home, that he is Japanese?
like, I'm stuck here.
Yeah, but not even stuck. You were born here. You have a right to be treated like every other Japanese person on this country, in this country, like that. For us, in some ways, yes, we are the visitor. We are the tourists, so to speak. It doesn't
The
mean
foreigner.
we are the
Yeah.
foreigner. We are the foreigner, right? We are the gaikokujin. And so with that, the first thing they told me when I first arrived here is that you are an ambassador for your country, so you should always be at your best, like that. And while I think some of that is also kind of BS, because I do see white privilege being handled a little differently, I also do see at the same time some of my white friends that get pulled over the same way because they're big and they're suspicious, so to speak. But again, I think that's irrelevant to Zoe's particular case because he is Japanese. Naomi Osaka is Japanese. You know, they may be mixed, but they still have the best of both worlds, so to speak, so you can't discredit them for that.
And I'm tired of this country just taking, like, as much as those people saying that, you mean to tell me none of those time when you saw Rui Nakamura, the first half black, half Japanese basketball player, came to NBA, or the fact that when Naomi Osaka at one point did represent Japan and etc. in Miss Universe, like any of those times, you mean to tell me the fact that you're telling me that fact, like, cut off your whatever, what would you tell them the same way? Because if that's the case, then I would tell them, hey, yo, just represent your other side. Don't represent this country. How would you feel? Like,
Right.
only, like, you're at this point, you're just using us, like, kind of like in positive commercial items, which we're not. Like, we're not just something to, like, use us conveniently. Oh, yeah, Japan BLM, like, yeah, just put all these half-mixed kids on Uniqlo because we already got them. And, like, any company out there or anybody who's actually, like, even listening to hip-hop, all right, you gonna like kick us out and give us our music back and all the culture we already separated here that's already embedded here. How much money have you made it off of our culture, but we never actually complained for it?
All right, so like, where can people reach out to you guys?
So I'm on Instagram, Zosan, just look for Zosan, and I'm also gonna be sorry, I don't want to promote out of nowhere, but like I'm also gonna be releasing an in-depth video, so you can find me on my social media about the in-depth video of what happened in Tokyo Station. Just find me on social media, Zosan.
Of course, guys, you can check me out on Akasan on YouTube. Keyword Akasan, aka SAN in Romaji, where you can get a bunch of pop culture stuff that has nothing to do with Japan. I do travel vlogs. Occasionally I talk about Japan. A lot of pop culture experience. And if you want to catch me live, you can also find me on Twitch at aka SAN_plays, and on Twitter, and all my socials are there.
So guys, I know this video was a bit different, but thanks for watching. Let me know if you've had any experiences with the police in Japan in the comment section down below. Until next time, bye for now.
Bye.